Mr. Calhoun, a pleasure
Yes,
to
my
have
friend.
you here.
Me, Jimi.
We are interested to hear what if you could introduce yourself to us a bit. Dwayne gave us a bit of background, but we'd like to know if you could just say a few words about yourself so we can get to know you a bit better.
Okay, my name is Jimi Calhoun. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm from Los Angeles, California originally. And then we lived all over the world. I lived in London and different parts of the States. And right now I'm a minister. But before that, I played in rock and roll bands and jazz bands. I recorded a whole bunch of albums, maybe 100 or so. And I did my first album when I was 15. Well, my first single, I should say that. The first record that was played on, that I could hear on the radio all over the country, I was 15 years old. And...
Cool, awesome.
I'm sorry?
No, I said cool, awesome.
Oh, okay.
An awesome experience.
So I've traveled extensively, you know, I've touched down on most every continent playing music. And that's who I am.
So quick question though.
I'm sorry?
Quick question. He says a quick question. So what age have you started playing bass guitar?
Okay, all right, that's a good question. Now I came from a musical family. So I started on drums. And then my mom and my brother both played piano. So we couldn't afford drums, but we had a piano. So I started playing piano. And then after that I was probably 10 or 12. And then somehow I got a guitar and I started playing guitar and piano. And then I was in a nightclub one day. It was a teenage nightclub and the bass player didn't show up. So the leader of the band asked if anybody in the audience knew how to play bass. So I raised my hand. So he said, come on up and play bass. So I played bass. Never had played one in my life, but I played guitar and piano. So I knew what bass parts were, but I didn't really know how to execute them. And it was just simple rock and roll. And so I got the job. He fired the guy who didn't show up, and I got the job, and we started making big money for a guy in junior high school, which is secondary school, which I'd make $5, you know, to play a job. And in my bands, I didn't make anything because we stunk. We were bad. So I didn't really start playing bass. The bass found me.
Oh. So basically, it was like the bass actually chose you to be its master.
Yeah. I mean, I was playing music, but I didn't like see a bass player on TV, or I wasn't drawn to the instrument. But the instrument found me, and I had a natural aptitude for it, and I didn't know that. So once the instrument found me, then it was, like they say here, it was all history from there. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So
I'm sorry?
That's interesting.
So how old are you guys?
I'm 16.
15?
16.
16, okay.
So I'm 16.
You both the same age?
Yeah, but turning 17 on the 24th of December.
Did you?
I'm turning 17 on the 24th of December.
Okay. I'm gonna try to turn my speaker up. Okay. Say that again.
I was saying that I'm turning 17 on the 24th of December.
Oh, okay. That was better.
Good. Mr. Calhoun, they are currently learning the Trinity Rock and Pop syllabus. I'm teaching them the Trinity Rock and Pop syllabus. Frederick is on a grade 3 piece on Trinity Rock and Pop, and Brian is busy learning grade 1. He's still in an initial phase, but that's my method of teaching. I was wondering whether you had any advice for them on how they should go about learning their instrument. How did you tackle the bass? Did you have a bass guitar teacher at all? And if not, what did you do for yourself?
No, actually, I didn't, when I became interested in the bass and started playing in bands, at school, I took up acoustic bass, what we call stand-up bass, or bass, the big one.
Double bass. We call it double bass.
Double bass. Okay, there we go. So at school, I took the double bass, and so I could learn to read, but I never actually took a bass guitar lesson, because I only played it for about 1.5 years, and then I made a record, and that was a hit. So by that time, I was already a pro. You know what I mean? So let me see what you're learning.
I must show you our pieces. Would you like to see their pages, or would you like to hear them play?
I'm sorry?
Would you like to see their pages, or would you like to hear them play?
I want to hear them.
Okay, you can hear them. Well, Brian will go first.
Okay.
And I want you to just have it like this. You're gonna do no surprises? No. You gonna do the other one, you're doing? Yeah, no surprises.
Oh, this is no surprise.
Yeah, no surprises. Okay, so he's gonna be doing a song called No Surprises.
All right.
It's a pretty basic. Turn your volume up.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
That was great, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So, which one you want to play? Friend? Papa the Brian, or the other one? Misery Business. Misery Business. So, Fred's gonna be playing a bit of a rock song called Misery Business.
Okay, cool.
Bit of a hardish rock song, but we'll see. You want another stand there, Fred? Sit down.
Ah, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you want to play the track?
Huh?
For the track?
No, not the check.
Come on, with the track.
Okay, Shanku. Well, sir, Brian here actually uses his 5-string bass guitar, so I use the 4th string.
I see that.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Most excellent.
It's a hard piece, Mr. Calhoun, but he's getting there. He's slowly getting there.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I told you when I started playing music, like at 15, I don't want you to get the idea that we were playing songs that sophisticated. Most of the stuff we were playing at that time went like, can you hear that?
Yeah, so
Just a little bit. A little bit.
Let me try.
Yes. Yes, we can hear that.
Yeah.
So that's all we played, you know, like we go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's so easy. So it's like playing in grade 1 piece.
So we do stuff like that.
Oh.
But I noticed two things. Both of you guys go like this. All right. You both have better bass hands than I have. I have little hands. And little hands and a big bass. Short fingers. So I noticed right away you have an advantage. So it was good. So be encouraged. You can conquer this thing, this instrument. So let me let's see. What is it about the bass that you like?
Well, the reason why I chose to play bass is because I actually wanted to play rock music, so that's why I chose bass.
You like bass, rock, I mean?
Yes, sir. That's one of the reasons why I chose bass guitar. Yeah.
Okay.
Before I started playing bass, I used to play trombone.
I got you.
Yeah, I used to play trombone, so I couldn't like breathe properly just because I was playing trombone. So my mother told me to change to play bass so that I could also play at church. So it motivated me a lot.
Yeah, I get you. And I kind of left out other parts of my story because I play trombone as well and saxophone. I left those out, but I picked them up because I'm always interested in another instrument. But somehow it always came back to bass, and when I played bass,
So what motivated you to push through and play bass instead of like concentrating on other instruments?
People liked it. They seemed to respond. And I made money. I wish I could say it was altruistic. And I got this big light went on from the sky and said, "Jimmy, play bass." That didn't happen. It went, "Jimmy, here's $5." And I went, "Okay, bass, let's go." But after a while, I realized I had a natural affinity for the instrument. And it may have been from the trombone or just something about bass, or even maybe the sound of my voice because it's kind of low. You know, I don't know. But the bass found me, and we've been in love ever since. I don't play the other ones as well. You know, I put in the same amount of time, but when I put it on the bass, it just sounds good. And I would also say that, you know, a lot of people think bass is easy. It's an easier instrument. But what I found by playing multiple instruments is to play them well, they're all equal. It's very difficult to play any instrument well, whether it's drums, trumpet. Every instrument has its own challenges, and the bass has his. And you know, that's why I thought about asking you why you like to play the bass, because sometimes people have a different view of the bass. They think it's an accompaniment instrument. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, they think like, okay, the bass is an accompaniment instrument, and you should be relegated to playing. Can you hear that?
Yes,
So
sir.
a little bit though, just a tiny bit.
Let me try this.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That's okay.
That's good.
A little louder.
I have neighbors.
Tell them to go away.
Can you hear this? Not well?
Nah.
Nothing.
Okay. All right, let me
Just a-
try something else. Let me move something. Let's see.
Oh, did I move my-
But we heard it now.
That was good. Second ago. Yeah, that's good.
Yes, we can hear.
That's good.
Yeah, we can hear you. Can
Let
hear
me
it.
try.
Can hear it. It's fine.
All right. So they would think, well, you know, you got to play this all the time. And you can hear already that the notes aren't even.
Yeah.
And they should be even. But it takes a lot of work to just do one note and do one note well. So they come out even. Most of the time on a... See, you want to do that. I want to get there. I want to be able to do that, you know, or I want to be able to do those things, but I don't want to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to get to the good stuff, but I don't want to do the easy. I don't want to do the. So, if any advice, it would be that they're both equal. You know, you got to do your scale. You got to do those things, but you also have to work on timing and tone. Timing and tone, they're equally as important as dexterity or being able to play notes. I read a story about this really famous American bass player, and there were two of them, and the guy's name is Billy Cobham. He's a jazz drummer, and he got ready to do an album, and there were two famous guys that he was going to choose between to play the bass, and he chose the guy who was lower in the echelon. And they asked him, well, why did you do that? He says, well, I didn't like the guy's tone. I didn't want his tone on my record. So the other guy never knew that what got him disqualified from that album was the way it sounded, not the way he played. So you have to pay attention to sound, the tone, and your tone will find you. You develop your own tone, because most of the tone comes from your hands. The instrument is important, but ultimately, you'll get to a point where it doesn't matter which instrument you pick up within reason. You'll still be able to sound good if you work on if you do this properly and take the time like you were doing on the song on the 5-string. And it sounded great already, even though you were starting at that level. I got a funny story about a 5-string. I always played 4 strings, right? Okay, so we moved back to the States in 2001, and we had been living in Central America for 8 or 9 years. And so during that time, people started playing 5 strings. I didn't know that because we didn't have any in Belize. So I thought, well, I'll buy a 5-string. So I bought a 5-string. And I was playing at this church, but one of the things we do, we talk about technique. One of the techniques. Let me see. I'm gonna see. Let me get it up here where you can see my thumb. Can you see my thumb?
Yes, sir.
I'm not doing this. See? I'm doing this. So that became a habit. You start playing. On the E string, on the low E string, I'm used to doing thumbs. What I forgot when I got the 5 string with the low string became a D. So I'm playing in this church, and everybody thinks, oh, here comes this guy. He knows how to play. He's on records. He's famous. And I'm sitting there going, and the organ player is looking at me like, and I'm playing along, and I forgot, oh man, I'm stinking because I'm hitting the wrong notes, and that's why everybody's looking at me. So I never played the 5 string again. But the 5 string is good because it has that extra, it expands your options. But they're both good. And I'll always be a 4 string guy because I started there. And it's natural for me, and I speak the vocabulary better. What, you gonna try your thumb there? Is that what you're doing? I don't want to show. I don't want to give you any bad habits. I just want to show you what some people do.
Well, basically, sometimes I do actually use my thumb to play the G or an F sometimes. Yeah, sometimes.
Oh, you're already doing that? You're already doing that?
Yeah, I do it sometimes. Sometimes, not all the time, because I find it difficult sometimes to do so.
Yeah. See, the last thing in the world I want to do, we're just meeting and we're going to become friends, and I'm going to give you bad habits. That Calhoun guy in the States, he's the one who did it. Okay.
So when last have you played like a difficult piece song? Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Have you ever like played a difficult song that you couldn't even understand?
Have you ever played a piece that you never understood or you never knew how to play before? Have you ever had a difficult piece, or has it always just come a bit easy to you?
Oh, okay. Well, for a little while, I read music, and then we stopped reading music. When you were reading music, when I read music, they would just give me the chart, and sometimes the charts were difficult. But most of the music that I played, we played by ear. It was just a vocabulary everybody was talking. So it was more of a creative, more of, you make up your parts. So I guess the short answer is not really, no. But I don't have that much opportunity where people just surprised me and said, here, you got to play this today. And that would be much more difficult.
Yeah.
Mr. Calhoun, you have bass guitars, or you've had a bass guitar for your entire life, I'm assuming, since you were, or when did you get your first bass guitar, like your actual first bass guitar?
Maybe at 14 years old.
At 14, okay. And did you have when you got the bass, did you have an amp with it, or was it just the bass guitar? Because unfortunately, our students here, they can only take the KMA basses home with them, but they don't have an amp that they can play on. So when they're practicing without an amp.
Yes.
It's unfortunate, but I've told them that it's not the end of the world. You have the instrument, and it's more about getting used to your fingers in the positions and understanding where to play.
Right. That's exactly right.
So I just want them to hear that that's okay. I want them to.
That's what we were. Yeah, there's 3 elements: timing, tone, and technique.
Yeah.
And those can be accomplished. Timing and technique can be established at home without an amp. Tone, sometimes you're always going to be at the mercy of other things, other factors. Like what amp you walk, like when I toured at first, we always took the same equipment around wherever we played. We would leave Los Angeles and go to London, and our amps would be on the plane.
Wow.
And then they don't do that anymore because one, the airlines won't let them. So that means when you're traveling, most people don't even really want to take their expensive basses because the airlines don't handle them that well. So they leave the instruments that they use to record, they leave them at home and take cheaper versions of it.
Wow.
So that means everything they've been practicing on is not with them anymore. So whatever they land in Amsterdam or New York, they just show up and play whatever is there. So that's why I was saying earlier that, you know, it's going to be in your hands ultimately. You get to a place where when you're using your hands, that's what's going to determine whether you sound good. The amps and whatever equipment is secondary. And the other thing about that is when we used to play, there weren't sound guys. There weren't soundboards and like the big festivals. I don't know. See, I'm very old. and you know, some of the festivals I played were 1970.
Wow.
Not 1870, 1970. And way back then, they didn't have people who mix the sound for you. Today you play, and if you're playing at on a big stage, there's somebody in the back of the auditorium with a soundboard, and they determine what the audience hears. They have a machine. They have a big machine like this. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
They have a great big machine like this, a mixer, and they turn all the knobs and they do everything, and that makes the sound.
Wow.
So, you know, as far as an amp, whether the amp's good or the amp's bad, it doesn't matter, because ultimately somebody else is going to be responsible for what the other people hear. There's so many factors, the pickups, like this part, and the strings, and all of those things will affect how it sounds. The only thing you can really control is your timing. Make sure that they're, like before I showed you, that wasn't even. So you get to a recording session and the guy goes, yeah, just pump the D for me. Okay. And you're out in the room and you think you're sounding really good. You're satisfied. You're patting yourself on the back going. Then you walk into the booth, and they play it back, and you hear boom, 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 boom. And you hear that it's not even. You go, oh. That's me. And they go, yeah, that's you, buddy. So, you know, when you're at home, I mean, it's as boring as it is, you know, without an amp, and you sit and you have spare time, you pat your foot and you count, and and just listen to make sure. Ah, there, that's better. You can't hear it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now that was fairly in time. Fairly in time. But there's some people who play it exactly in time. and that's what you want. And that can be accomplished without an amp. And that's a long answer for what was asked, but you know.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
So say if you're at home and then you want to practice your bass notes, and then you feel bored, maybe your friends are outside playing outside, but you want to like concentrate on your piece. You do not any distraction. What must you do, or what do you usually do?
What do you got to do? You got to not look outside.
Close all the doors, all the windows. Just make sure it's no distraction.
Actually, you know, it is funny, but that's I have a friend named Leon Patillo who plays on my records, and he's kind of famous. And we talk about the fact that when we were young, all the kids would be out playing. He lived in San Francisco, and that's a hilly area. Yeah. So when you look out your window, you can see down the hill. You can see more people on different streets, and you can see all the kids out playing. He says, my mom had the piano right by in front of the window, and she'd make me practice. And while I was practicing, I could see kids all over the neighborhood, blocks away, out in the street playing basketball and doing this and the other. And my mom had made me practice, and she wouldn't let me go out. And he used to think his mom was mean. And now he's a great keyboard player, and he's thankful that she made him stay in the house and do the boring stuff. I mean, that's one of the things about music. At some point, it becomes an obsession. It's just something you want to do and have to do, and it's hard work. That's one of the misconceptions about when people walk in and hear a band or something. They think it's like a hobby, and the people got there because they have natural skills, and they bought a guitar at the pawn shop. They brought it home. 9 months later, they're in the pizza parlor or out in the park playing, and everybody's clapping. I mean, that's true for some people who sing, but to be an instrumentalist, it's a lot of hard work, hours and hours and hours of practicing. And sometimes nobody's paying attention. People aren't going, oh, that's great, because they don't get it. They don't know how many hours it took. When I became a pro, in the States here, the work week is 40 hours a week. So when people had a job, they got up in the morning at 8 and went to work and stayed there 8 hours and got home at 5. They took an hour for lunch. That's whether you're building a car or serving food or you're a lawyer. It didn't really matter. So I thought, okay, if that's what's going on and this is my job, I'm going to spend at least 6 hours a day, just like they do, at practicing. If they got to work 8 hours a day, I'm going to work 8 hours a day. So I made sure I spent 6 hours every day, and that meant I didn't take lunch because you could eat when, you know. So as far as actual work time, I practice at least 6 hours a day, every single day. And then when I started playing in nightclubs, I would practice 3 hours, do the gig, go to the job, which would be 4 hours. Then I would come home at 2 in the morning and practice and run scales. Yeah. So it was a total commitment. And the result of that was that after a couple of years, I didn't feel like I was getting ahead where I wanted to be. And people in the neighborhood were better than me. But then after a while, all that practicing that no one saw paid off. we were talking about practicing and practicing at home. The question was, and it was a very good one. How do you sit home when you, when you sit, how do you sit home and continue to practice when you see everybody else out playing? And I told a story that when my buddy and myself, and I'll send you a copy of our record. The keyboard player, both of us had the same experience. Our moms made us stay home and practice. And Leon he lived in San Francisco where he could see the piano was by the window. He could see streets down below where all the kids were out playing, and he had to stay home and practice. And we just in the last couple of years, we talked about how we grew up. So we thought our moms were mean. They'd make us practice but then because we were both able to make records and become pros, we were eventually thankful for our parents for making us have the discipline to stay home and practice.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Calhoun, because they need that inspiration to practice.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were just talking about how much work. The one thing about musicians is people don't appreciate how many hours that the musician is put in to play a simple song. They don't get it. They don't know, just even go. Or what we were doing. Even to do that could be simple. You can learn to play that. I could go next door and teach my neighbor to play that, right? And maybe in 3 or 4 months, they'll be able to copy that one little part. But they won't be able to create the part on the front end because they don't have the hours and hours and hours of practicing and the vocabulary and let's say the library of sounds and licks, and they don't have that because they didn't put in the hours and hours and hours and hours. So the unfortunate part of music is hard. It's very hard work, and it's hard work that people don't appreciate it. And the satisfaction has to come from inside of you. The self-satisfaction that you're putting in the effort, making the effort. Yeah. Go ahead, my friend.
So quick question.
Okay.
So back in your time, no, which was the most popular scale? So
The
most used scale back in your time.
Scale?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, most used. Everybody ultimately uses the major scale.
Oh.
Because everything will come out of that. See, you'll develop a vocabulary. If you know the major scale, then I can tell you to do something and say, well, just flatten the third, bring the third down to half, and you know immediately. Like the major. Okay. Let me. Okay, that was D major, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, but see, to make D minor, I do the same thing. But if I'm telling you, I would just tell you instead of going to flatten the third, you would know intuitively to go. So a major scale not only is good, it's not only good for, I'm sorry about that. It's not only good for practicing, it's good, it opens up other areas and other vistas because you know.
You're a popular guy, Jimmy, at 8 in the morning.
So
But the major scale's like the alphabet, because then you can make words with the major scale in different ways.
that's a short way, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, so the what happens is like the major scale. Okay, but now if I take those same notes and start on a different position and go, that will become a different mode, a different word, as Dwayne just said. And that would become, what I just did there would be,
Dorian.
yeah. So once you have a major scale down, you whenever you hear something, you know, you have a frame. Let's say you have a sheet of paper or a frame to understand what just happened. So, long answer to a short question, the major is by far and away for me the most important.
So, Jimmy, we want to know, have you got any other questions you'd like to ask these guys or Simon? Because if not, we're gonna have to close this session off because there are other kids waiting for Simon.
Okay, I got you. No, I just, it's a good start. We're getting to know each other, and we're gonna
We can do this again, yeah?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get together, and I'll send you some tracks that I played. You get to know me a little bit better, and
Jimmy, did you manage to listen to any of Simon's band?
Not yet. I haven't. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, it's fine. That's all right.
Now, one more thing. If you just bear with me for 1 minute, we've just got a little something for you.
Okay.
These guys have been doing. Please listen up. These guys have been doing. Somebody from America. Wow. Come here.
Sorry, Mr. Calhoun. They're just gathering.
Sorry, Mr. Jimmy. We're just like busy gathering some.
Take the computer back a bit. You guys can all come in here. Come forward. Guys, stop. Yeah, come guys. We've got all our kiddos here to come and say hi to you. Come guys, come. All right, are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello,
Jimmy! Thank you so much.
Okay, I think we're gonna call if you guys can go now.
Okay, we'll see you soon. And
all right, Jimmy.
hey guys, Dwayne and I will get together to find out when the three of us can get together again. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
You two both have a lot of talent.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.